Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Minority Report. Again, it's always a pleasure being with you and having you present with us. And we definitely look forward to today's program as we seek to continue to uncover a number of the issues and ventilate as is expected of us by not just our viewing audience and our listening audience, but Tobago by extension. My name is Marlon David. I'm your host this evening, and we're coming off a very successful program that was aired last week where we saw an all-woman panel, and this was in commemoration of International Women's Day. And ironically, and it just happened that way, we do not have our female part of the team with us tonight, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank publicly Minority Councillor Petal Daniel Benoit for what she has been contributing thus far, not only to the program, but to Tobago at large. She's a bit under the weather this evening, so we are wishing her a speedy recovery. And so we will continue to push forward, even though she's not here physically, but we definitely know she's here with us in spirit. I want to also, at this point in time, indicate to us by way of information that this program can be viewed on the Tobago Updates website, the Tobago Updates YouTube channel, and the platform that most persons utilize is the Tobago Updates Facebook page. However, you can also view the Minority Report on M&E TV. And we thank Tobago Updates for making considerable strides in ensuring that the platforms are definitely multiplying and increasing in terms of persons being able to view on multiple platforms. If you want to call in to the program, our number is 284-6597. That's 284-6597. You can also send your WhatsApp messages to that particular number, and we will be able to respond to you. Our next number that we've added, and at some point in time this evening, we will definitely try to open the lines so that we can entertain some calls. That is 356-8833. 356-8833. And we definitely want to hear from you as we continue to see about your business, and really and truly, this is it's an aspect of the program that we had been discussing for quite some time. And so we want persons to really utilize the opportunity to not just message in, but call and let your voices be heard. There's something about hearing somebody speaking about their own issues, and then we have the opportunity to follow it up. This evening, we want to send out condolences to two families, that of Aaron Hills and Stefano Dash. They were the second and third road fatalities that we experienced in Tobago. Very, very sad in terms of the way those two accidents occurred, and we really want to send our condolences out to their friends and families in this time where we know it's definitely difficult to actually cope with. It's not a case of pending illness or anything like that. It was just sudden. And so we really want to reach out to those families and to friends and say that, we want you to hold fast, to stay strong, and in everything put God first, as we have been learning daily, that we always try to put God first. On another note, we want to send out a bit of congratulations. And this time it is two students in the spotlight, and I think they did Tobago proud. We saw two students, one from Signal Hill Secondary School and the other from Bishop's High School, Tobago. Both 16-year-old and 14-year-old students, Antonio Hackett and Javon Hosford. They were the recipients of the Express Youth of the Year Award in Trinidad. These two young men found a purse with $5,000 at the roadway along the Pigeon Point Heritage Park last year. And I'm smiling because I'm hearing a lot of people's thoughts in this time where we're experiencing such grave circumstances. Finding a purse with $5,000, I think many persons would actually fall on their knees and thank God for sending this quote unquote blessing to them. However, these two young men coming across the purse would have returned it to the Pigeon Point, to the Crown Point police station, if I'm not mistaken. And the owner was actually not even in Trinidad, in Tobago at the time. There's someone who were just vacationing in Tobago and they lost their purse. And I could imagine the relief that this individual experienced, hearing not just that the purse was found, but that the $5,000 in the purse was safe. That says quite a lot to me about the quality of these young men and what has been put into them. And I definitely want to say not just congratulations to them on their award, but it speaks also of the parenting that these young men would have received. And it's good to know that we have parents like this who are still instilling values in their children, values that would definitely make them proud. This evening, I want to take the opportunity to introduce my other host with me in studio today, none other than the Minority Leader Assemblyman, Kelvon Morris. Welcome to the show, sir.
Let me say pleasant good evening to one and all. Let me thank everyone for all our viewers who are logged on the various platforms. Thank you for being with us every Tuesday,
Yes.
and we really appreciate the support. And let me also send out speedy recovery. Greetings to Minority Councillor. We know she's a bit under the weather this evening, but I want to thank her for the work that she has done. Marilyn, you have real competition. So, yeah. She was an excellent host. Yes. And I also want to thank Natasha and Miss Akisi London, yes, who also was, they were part of the panel last week and really enjoyed that panel discussion in recognition of International Women's Day. True. And then you turned big chef the following day because we had a nice little cookout for the staff. So the men cooked and we would have hosted the women of both the Office of the Minority and the district office of the Assemblyman, and from all accounts they survived. So that means they had and from all reports the meal was quite appreciated. I heard the corn pie was the favorite.
Yeah, that is the seller. That is the deal breaker. So that was the deal breaker.
So it's definitely always, good to recognize and celebrate our women. As I say, women are indeed the fabric of our society. They are who really, without them, we are nothing. Yeah. So it's always important to recognize and celebrate and respect. And of course, they are also equals and should be treated so both in and out of the workplace as well. So this evening, I also want to, on the note of kudos, want to congratulate the young men. I want to congratulate as well the number of young people, our athletes, who would have participated in the Intercol. Congratulations to Signal Hill. Secondary, who were eventual winners of the secondary schools Intercols. I want to send out congratulations to all our Tobago athletes who did extremely well and made us all proud. I also want to send out condolences very quickly to some families in my electoral district. So in the district of Darrell Spring, the community of Darrell Spring, we lost Miss Zena McKnight. So to Brian and the rest of the family in Spring Trace, Darrell Spring, and Joefield Trace, I want to extend on my own behalf and that of the entire electoral district our condolences, as well as to the Jones family at Pump Mill. We lost also Mr. McDonald Jones. So I also want to send out condolences to the Jones family of Pump Mill. Week also as Minority, I continue to do my weekly walkabout. So we have covered most of the electoral district, at least going in some part of the communities. tomorrow we will be in Pump Mill, so I will be visiting with the family. So I look forward to seeing all the residents of Pump Mill, and I will be making a special visit to the Jones family to share my personal condolences with them. So you can look forward to that tomorrow. So we continue to do those direct connections with the residents, hearing from them some of the issues, and it gives you a greater insight.
Yes.
So that is something I look forward to on a weekly basis. Those direct contact walks in the electoral district.
I am very well said and well done. We know that has been rolling out from inception of your term in office, and somebody messaged and literally requested. They said they don't believe that the women were treated in that way. So I sent a couple
we
pics.
should send some
I
pictures,
sent
man.
some pics. I'll ask the director just to pull up some of the photos I would have sent him. Though we are not well resourced at the Office of the Minority Leader, we were still able.
And unlike the social media mischief
Yes.
that we are funded, and every week we are having cooks and
dinners and stuff.
Yeah, we are very responsible when it comes to the use of taxpayers' funding and funds, and therefore all those meals, it was through the generosity and the efforts of the men who would have come together. So cooked. So
yes.
The barbecue chicken, sweet and sour fish, that was the product of jelly. I did some rice and steamed veg, and Marilyn did the pies.
Yes.
So we had both macaroni pie and corn pie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and the woman thoroughly, as you can
see,
we had a time.
The Minority Council was enjoying herself, and it was really it really was a good evening, and it's something I felt especially proud about, just being able to see our women putting a smile on their faces, the hardworking women of our offices. And we look forward to Father's Day now.
Definitely. So folks, you would have seen the proof. As the saying goes, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And you would have seen proof of the food, and you would have seen how happy the women were. So you definitely knew there was enjoyment in the place there. So we want to thank the women as well for the support, even on that day, and the number of comments and congratulations that came after.
Yeah.
We felt appreciated after that little event that we held.
And it just goes to show that sometimes it's really the thought that counts, because it wasn't anything so overly flashy or so, but just the appreciation that we saw. It really tells you that sometimes it's not what you do, but the little goes a long way. And in everything, it's important to remember that sometimes it's just the effort that is appreciated more than anything else. So that is something we try to ensure that we live by. We make sure that we're able to walk the talk in everything that we do.
Exactly. So folks, we want to take a different direction at this point in time. We're going to get right into our program, and I know that you would have seen the theme coming up on the screen, what we want to treat with this evening, and we're looking at the myth of transparency. And when you hear the word myth, you think of something that is unbelievable, is not real, and we hear the term transparency, which is a term flagrantly touted in recent times. And what we're saying is that what we would have expected to be transparent processes, we have realized that it has just simply evolved into a myth.
And what we are also seeing is basically what we've been saying all this time. What they say and what they do just does not match. And what you're getting now is like a facade. What they're doing, they're really masking all their flaws with camera tricks and poly tricks. So you're getting a lot of camera, you're getting a lot of fluff.
Yes.
You're getting the pictures. But when you dig underneath the surface, you're recognizing that it's all a game. You're recognizing that these things that they're selling you isn't really real, and it's really a myth. So we would have been told about transparency. And I listened to the Chief Secretary recently with respect to a trip that he took to ITB, and he said it is the most transparent an assembly has ever been, because they were able to produce this beautiful video of him leaving Tobago, landing into Germany. But in all of this, you know, we saw a picture that was quickly pulled, and you have to ask yourself, why was it pulled? If you're being transparent, what do you have to hide?
Why
and
would
that
you
is
take the photo
so
down?
why would you take it? And it's no attack on any individual or so, but if we are talking transparency, then there should be nothing to hide, and nothing that you do should not be explainable. You should be able to explain everything, and that is what the people of Tobago demand, and that is all that the people of Tobago want, is for you to be honest with them, level with them. And the fact that you have to hide means that there's something in the mortar more than the pestle.
Exactly. And you know, we would have heard the Deputy Chief Secretary utter certain statements, and so we're going to listen, just run those two clips back to back. The Deputy Chief Secretary, and then we're going to listen to a clip of the Chief Secretary himself when he attempted to speak to prudent management. So I'll ask the director to run the Deputy Chief Secretary first, and then we'll go right into the Chief Secretary's clip.
I want to ensure that every time you have a question, you know that you can go to our website that is run by the Tobago House of Assembly and find the information about that particular thing. We want you to know that if any contract for how much millions of dollars give away, you should be able to pull up that website and say, here what? These were the 10 companies that vie for that contract. This is the company that got the contract, and this is why this company got the contract. We shouldn't have to be telling you, it is not your business, but this is public, this is private business, and it is not your, no. The Progressive Democratic Patriots is insisting that when, on your behalf, we spend your money, you know exactly what is going on. We had to think.
We had some spendthrifts around. And let me put that in context for you. Our budgetary allocation from the national budget for development expenditure for this fiscal year is only $264 million. And in 3 months, we spent more than how much we are allocated for an entire fiscal year. And if you sit and think that that is prudent management, then you have to get your brain checked. Madam Presiding Officer, it begs the question, how much more financially wayward and reckless behavior can an executive in a government exhibit? And let me say no. Let me pause to say no. This kind of behavior will be unacceptable under my stewardship, and is unacceptable under the stewardship of this Executive Council.
So, again, we heard, and it's a clip, the one with the Deputy Chief Secretary is a clip that we've heard before, but because of the program that we're doing tonight in terms of transparency and so on, we've thought it necessary to bring back that information. However, we saw the Chief Secretary there speaking to prudent management and you know, tight spending and managing the resources adequately, that in a manner that it would benefit Tobago. However, as you said, Minority Leader, earlier, what this administration says And what this administration does is definitely two separate issues. And so we're going to delve a bit tonight into the issue of travel. We know that we've been seeing quite a bit of travel happening, and to use their word, in this space. But are we really gaining any returns on these trips that we are seeing? And again, we've seen quite a bit of fluff and side talk and the optics, nice productions of little video clips and so on. But really and truly, what is the benefit that we are seeing to Tobago? And more so, what is the spend?
And that is where my concern as minority leader lies. Because, of course, you will have to embark on overseas travel from time to time. But when you look at the frequency of the travel, when you look at the number of persons having to travel, and when you look at the reason for travel, it begs the question, is it simply traveling to conduct public affairs, or is it, in some instances, traveling for pleasure, traveling for leisure, and also traveling to boost the pockets of some? Because I would tell you, and I would go through one example, that Grenada trip. If you look at the per diem that a secretary receives when they go out on a trip, you would recognize it is something, if you do frequently, you can in fact make a lot of money. And when you look at the duration of some of these trips, where it is contradicting and contravening the very circular memorandum that treats with overseas travel, it tells you that you should leave as close to when the event is happening, and then you shall depart as soon as and as early as possible as the event ended. But you are seeing persons leaving almost, sometimes in some instances, 2 days before the event, 3 days, and you are seeing people returning sometimes 3 days after the event. Well after the event. So this is something that I have serious concerns, and I asked the question, and perhaps we should share the question that was asked, and then I will explain to all of Tobago what has been the response thus far.
Okay, so I'll ask the director to pull up the question. We're going to get back to this one, but let's pull up the question first that would have been asked in the House by the minority leader. And that was question number 41. So I'm going to read it for the benefit of persons who are listening. With respect to overseas travel for the Tobago House of Assembly and all its agencies, can the Chief Secretary provide the following? A list of all overseas trips and the cost for the period December 6, 2021 to November 30th, 2022. B, a list of persons attending each trip and the breakdown of the cost per person traveling. And C, the purpose of each trip. This was a question that was asked
filed in November, tabled in December, and to date, this is a question filed to the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, and we are in March, and to date, that question has been unanswered. And and this is why we are saying this administration is operating under the myth of transparency, because here you are, a Chief Secretary telling you that he's going to be very open with the population. He's going to answer the questions. And when we ask a simple question as to what is the spend on traveling across the THA, who were the persons that benefited? Up to this day, almost 4 months after, we are unable to get an answer. And when we ask the relevant agency, which is the clerk of the assembly and through the assembly legislature to follow up, he is ducking, running, and hiding. And the question has to be, what is there to hide?
To hide.
Why don't you want us to know how much money has been spent on traveling across the THA? Is it that he recognizes that the amount of money spent is scandalous? Is it that he recognizes that some of the trips that they went on was of no real benefit and value to Tobago, and he cannot justify it? And I am asking Tobagonians for us all to call on the Chief Secretary to answer the question, because we must demand transparency in governance. And it cannot be that you are pretending to show us what you want to show us. And when we ask the question that we want to know, you're ducking, you're running, and you're hiding.
So what, and again, we want to just use an example, and I'll ask the director to now pull up the sheet that he would have presented us with. So this is a breakdown of what we eventually came to know as the Grenada trip, which the rationale given was that this was to establish some sort of collaboration and connection between Grenada to promote the Tobago Carnival in Grenada. And so we had a contingent dispatched, led by the Assistant Secretary, Assemblyman Megan Morrison. And again, this is transparency, because we've now brought the figures up. The names of the other persons have been taken off for obvious reasons, because this minority does not believe in putting persons' names and their addresses and so on.
Except public officials.
Except public officials. Everyone else is not a public official, and so it is wrong to publish the names and addresses of persons. I'm repeating, it is wrong, so that those who need to hear, it's a clear message I'm sending. Let's operate with a level of professionalism and integrity in the process. And we saw here the spend on each individual averaging 33,993.
And therein lies my point. So if you look at what the secretary earned over that period, 11 days, that was $44,000. That is perhaps even more than her pay that she receives. So in 11 days, she received an income more than even the income that she's paid as a secretary. So I want Tobagonians to understand, when you see the hopper plane, it's not because they love you and they're going and look for things for you. They love the pocket.
Yes.
And it's because it is lucrative to the pocket. You see secretaries fighting over each other to go on trips. It is why we have a contingent of over 6 persons presently gone to sign an MOU for 7 days. And I just pulled up the university. I said, let me check out this university called the University of Technology of Jamaica. And simple, I just asked, what is the profile of this university? Now, what this university is ranked amongst universities of the world. This university is ranked number 5,121 out of 14,131 universities in the world. In Latin America and the Caribbean is number 352.
Wow.
But we have our chief secretary spending 7 days, said that he going to sign some technical contract with these people and misquoting the House of Assembly Act, because the Part 2C of the Act that he quoted speaks to donors. So it is if the university is donating funds and donate something of real benefit, tangible value, right? They are able to do that. But the MOU signing is under 21.3, is where the Act speaks to and authorizes the THA, if you're dealing with any agency of the national government, any state agency or statutory body, then you operate through an MOU. So this myth, again, that he's going to sign this MOU as some groundbreaking thing is absolutely nothing for us to feel
Proud about.
proud about, because
what is worse is that the number of persons, and I mean, I was
so that's what I'm
amazed.
saying. So you have
We have
taken
3 secretaries and an assistant secretary.
And what is the irony of it is that there was an MOU signed between Division of Agriculture, TATCO, and it was Novo.
Yeah.
And we can look, it was never shared, the details was never shared,
Even though
but we
you
know
asked.
it was a commercial, there were commercial terms, which we are told would benefit the island. So the island would get some revenue out of that relationship. And there was only 2 persons there, the secretary
Yes.
and the chairman of TATCO. And you ask yourself why. Is it because they only were going Trinidad and there's no per diem to receive? Why didn't the chief secretary find it necessary to go and sign that? But to go to Jamaica for 7 days, you leave Germany after you were away for 7 days from the island, and you go on over to Jamaica for 7 days to sign an MOU with a university ranked 352 out of 1756 in Latin America. So what about University of Trinidad and Tobago? And it is the same thing we are saying with the Grenada
University of the
experience.
West Indies.
You left NCC, who is the mother, the creator of Carnival. You left NCC, who is building carnivals all over the world.
All over the world.
To spend almost 500,000 TT to go Grenada. How many Grenadians came here for the carnival?
I heard of a contingent of about 12.
12 Grenadians for $500,000, right?
The maths, no maths in.
You left NC, so, and that is why one practitioner told them, dance a yard before you dance abroad.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a housing program you want to do. So you're telling me you haven't spoken to HDC, you haven't spoken to none of the agencies in Trinidad, you haven't spoken to UTT to see what are the technical expertise that is resident there, so that you can engineering association.
Nobody.
We have so many professionals in this space. You have not engaged them in no meaningful way, but you have left and you have gone to enjoy a trip in the guise of that you're signing some MOU that requires you to be there for 7 days. And I want the chief secretary to tell us when he returns, what was the cost of that trip? Let us be transparent. Tell us what it cost the taxpayers
to go to
Jamaica for 7 days.
To sign an MOU.
With 6 people.
Yeah. I want us to pull back up that the document that was shared, Mr. Director, the Grenada trip, because it's important that we take this into perspective and that persons understand. Now, what we're saying is that the breakdown, as we're seeing here, given to each person, this is not something that is not allowed.
Yes.
It is something that once you are on official travel, this is an entitlement. So the issue or the point that is being made is not that they are receiving something that they're not entitled to. The point that is being made is that when we look at what is being spent in relation to what Tobago is benefiting, there is no comparison. It is not commensurate.
Even when you compare it to what went before, because if you're saying that you're coming to fix things and do better, and you're complaining already of having a very small budget, then we expect you to be very prudent. It means that if you're traveling, it means that you will go as close to the time that you have to travel, and you would return as close to the time as your trip, as your official engagements end. because remember, you are trying to maximize the little that you have. You're trying to be very prudent. You're trying to be very reserved. So it means that you will consider these things. But we are saying when you look at what is happening, it begs the question whether persons have now understand that you can make some money out of this. And is basically milking the system. And that is my concern. It's not that you should not go out, because of course every government have to engage in overseas travel, because you have different engagements that require face-to-face contact. But it is how you utilize the resources when you engage in overseas travel. It is about who goes, for what reason, and also we must ask about the returns. I am looking at ITB and I have not yet heard one tangible outcome from ITB. I know we have a challenge with airlift. I have not heard anything that suggests to me we're able to secure additional airlift. I know we have a challenge with accommodation. I have not heard anything that tells me there's some kind of new investment in accommodation. I would have think that something like that, opportunity like that, a forum like that, where we just built a Manta Lodge and we are looking for an operator, the chief secretary, as the chief salesman, would have been able to return to Tobago and say to Tobago, we have been able to secure some interest in Manta Lodge. Well, I'm yet to hear any of those tangibles as well.
What I heard in one of the video clips, and again, this still does not bring an ease to the concern, is that it was said that when the entire contingent returns, they are going to have a massive presentation where everybody, all the stakeholders who went, will get an opportunity to tell Tobago what their experience was. Now, we know how we would have heard a lot of promises that we never see delivery on.
Let us also compare. We must contrast. It's important to contrast and compare. Just the last two WTM and ITB arrangements that the previous administration went on. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it would have been sometime in 2018. That contingent, led by the Chief Secretary, Mr. Kelvin Charles at the time, was able to secure a flight out of Canada, Sunwing, which was a winter flight. And that flight by itself brought in on between that period, November, December to about April, over 3,500 visitors to Tobago. So it moved the Canadian market from about 20 to 35 people to over 3,500 people. It was almost a 3,000% increase. And that is the kind of tangible benefit. When you go, returns, that is what you're really seeking to do. It was that same, coming out of that same arrangement, we were hearing about the Apple Leisure Group looking to take over Magdalena, which would have been groundbreaking. Of course, COVID came and changed all that arrangement. But these were the kind of outcomes we were getting. We had a situation in the German market where there was some fallout before. And those trips, when you went to ITB, were able to re-engage the tour operators. You were able to rebuild the relationships, and so we were able to really shore up the Condor flight, and that is how we were able to have a year-round flight with Condor. You're hearing now that Condor is now moving from a year-round rotation to a seasonal rotation. Remember, we have already lost Virgin. The situation is in Trinidad, British Airways, they have now announced that they are going to have 3 non-stop flights out of Trinidad. But at the same time, you know, the British Airways flight in Tobago is struggling, and that is a shared flight. So the question is, what are the outcomes? And I want the Chief Secretary to answer those questions, because you can't be spending taxpayers' money, going on trips, and there's no tangible outcome.
Yes.
We need to see something, hear something that can make us feel comfortable that your presence had value.
And I'm glad that you said that in that manner, because the next point that I was going to raise, and I know this is something that many persons would have observed. The issue is not, as we say, going on the trip, but we have seen several trips beginning early last year where we have received no report.
Yeah.
These people come back to Tobago and nothing is said. There is no, yes, we don't see the benefit whatsoever, but there is nothing that is said. We saw the Grenada trip, and we would have just seen some information there. We would have had trips where we saw Secretary Baines, who is presently on the Jamaica trip, would have gone on a trip earlier in the year as well. We saw Secretary Hackett going to what was said to be a conference.
Remember, we had that Dubai trip.
The Dubai trip.
We were promised a report on that
by
Dubai
the Chief
trip
Secretary.
By the Chief Secretary. And I want the people of Tobago to understand how bold-faced this man is.
Yes.
After promising us a report, when we asked the question in the House, because he and Duke fall out, you know what he's telling us? Well, all go and ask Duke.
And that's his official response.
That is his official response to us after you promised a report to the people, because it's you sent out Duke out there.
Yes.
You are the one who said you sent Duke to represent you. And then you have this situation unanswered even up to this day. What was the reason for sending Mrs. Vernell Allen Toppin and her group when the original thing that you approved, the original event, which was around the 26th, passed?
Yes.
And yet you found reason to send them out still to create the whole hullabaloo. And on top of that, when we ask you the question, you are trying to make people feel like if somebody is against people from the East getting support. So it's always something frivolous when the questions are asked. And the problem, as we are saying, is not really about the podium and the travel, because that is an entitlement.
It's an entitlement.
But it is the frequency, it is the justification that leaves me very uncomfortable.
And mind you, and as someone would have indicated as well, the Assistant Secretary.
Yeah, because on this trip, we have to ask, is the Chief Secretary, has the Chief Secretary lost confidence in all his secretaries?
Yes.
Because you see, you see him going out to WTM and ITB to micromanage the Secretary of Tourism. Then you give YT a job to go and get this MOU done. But yet you fly over to Jamaica to micromanage
to oversee
YT,
the process.
To oversee YT. You give Terence Baines the job to do with this contingency fund that you want to do. Well, I mean, I forgive him for Terence Baines, because Terence Baines came in the House to present us with a contingency policy. And when you looked at it, the man copy and paste the whole UNDP down to the comma, down to the full stop. It was the UNDP document. So I could understand if I was a Chief Secretary.
You can't trust him.
So I wasn't sending you out. So Baines going out to deal with that too, and you're there micromanaging Baines. But the question is, what's Certica doing there? Because if you are there, if Baines is secretary there, you have YT there, what's Certica doing there?
And that's why I say somebody
so it look like they're playing tag team. It's tag team. Everybody have to get a little play.
And with that, we want to send out birthday greetings to the Assistant Secretary, Certica, on your birthday. Long life. We trust that God will bless you with long life so that you can see the return of the PNM to teach this administration how Tobago should really be governed properly. Not perfectly, but properly. So happy birthday, Assistant Secretary Sertica Williams, or who is on the trip enjoying the best of Jamaica over the 7-day period. So I don't know who is running the office of the Chief Secretary right now with both parties out. But yes, Minority Leader, we are not getting the returns. We are not seeing, we're not hearing reports. And the question also is, if the Chief Secretary is not confident in his charges going out there to represent the THA, he's definitely not confident with them coming back to give any report. Because I remember the Assistant Secretary, Megan Morrison, when she was asked to account, and the reporter did quite a good job in questioning her. And she herself admitted that a lot was not in place, and things were not really done properly for that entire Grenada trip process and the returns and so on. So, I mean, she was at least open enough to acknowledge. So we want to thank the Secretary for being honest and for being truthful in that instance. We think that you should also pass that on to your colleagues so that when they go out there and flop and they come back to Tobago and they're hiding the information, because as I said, we're still waiting on a report even from the Education Secretary on this, from this conference that she attended, which was said would benefit Tobago so much.
There's no accountability, there's no transparency, but I will be holding, I want Tobagonians to also call on the Chief Secretary to produce, to answer the questions asked.
Yes.
Let us know what has been the spend, who has benefit from the spend, and what was the purpose of these trips. You're seeing, you sent out a contingent, as far as I understand, before to do a study. You're going to sign an MOU, and you take also other officers. If you've already done the study, you said you sent them on a study tour. If you're now going to effect the agreement, just to sign, why do you need these so-called technical persons on the trip as well? So it is mind-boggling how in one breath you're saying you don't have money to do all the things, so you cannot pay people salary on time. You're struggling to meet, give people food card, medical assistance, people who have serious critical illness and seeking and cannot afford to access the service. They can't get help.
Pay contractors.
You could barely pay contractors, but you're finding money to fly high in the sky all over the place.
Millions of dollars. And
so I had
millions.
I had to call them now. They're no longer the jellyfish gang. Is the high flying gang.
Yes, and we are calling on the Chief Secretary and his colleagues to, we want the Chief Secretary to answer the question. Now just to put some perspective to it, and we'll say this to Tobago, as this program has been known for in terms of having the information, we already have the information. What we want is for the Chief Secretary to come clean. Let the Chief Secretary come and say to us. Because if we start to go through some of the documents that we have with figures,
that is the
we
point.
don't want to preempt him. We want him to answer first. But Tobago, we have the information here.
And you could switch administrators from now till the information will come.
We have it.
So try as you may. What you need to do is reshuffle your deck. But I understand your challenge.
We understand that. We understand that. Folks, before we close, I mean, this time runs away. But we did, in fact, promise that we'll open the line. So we want persons to, if you have to call in, you want to call in to make some comments. I mean, this information is erroneous. And I'll ask persons not to ask us to read out some of the information, because we want to hold this to wait until the Chief Secretary responds so that we can really match the facts that we would have received. So the lines are open. Let me give you the numbers once again. I'll ask the director as well to put them up on the screen. That's 284-6597. 284-6597. You can also send WhatsApp to that particular number. and 356-8833. 356-8833. The lines are open, folks.
Yeah, so we have somebody on
We have someone on the line? Okay, good. And we're asking folks, when you call, speak into your phone and not try to listen the volume on your television or your device. We're going to get feedback. And sometimes we lose the callers like we would have just seen take place. So 284-6597, 356-8833. We just have a couple minutes and we want to see how many calls we can entertain.
I want to continue to encourage persons with the information to keep sending the information,
Yes.
because, you know, there's a saying, the upholder is worse than the perpetrator. So you don't turn a blind eye to corruption. Don't turn a blind eye to what you may deem as abuse of office. Wherever such abuse, wherever such corruption exists, you have a minority and you have a team of persons. You have a party in the People's National Movement who we stand ready and willing to prosecute these matters on behalf of the people of Tobago. So where these information resides, I can give you the commitment that we don't need to know who you are. All we need is the information.
Yes, yes, and we really appreciate that information coming. And you have made the task of the minority easier, that burden to bear when persons pass and just drop off documents.
So we appreciate those documents. In fact, I got a package again this week. And I just want to thank whoever you are for the information, and that will be prosecuted very soon.
Exactly. And we can also put our viewers on check because we also would have asked questions pertaining to the October Carnival. That the information has not been very forthcoming. As a matter of fact, the information has been extremely vague. But again, thanks to those persons who are now rising up and lending their support, we have been gifted with information, as they say, evidence that demands a verdict. And so we're going to also be prosecuting some of those matters coming out of the October Carnival, and calling on not just the Chief Secretary, but also the Secretary of Tourism to clarify some information for us with respect to things that she would have put out into the public domain. I am wondering if we're having some technical issues. Okay, because I'm hearing a lot of chatter in the back there with our technical team.
I'm seeing I'm receiving some form of they can't take the heat. But let me tell you all something. This Kelvon Morris is someone who I stand by the grace of the Almighty. And I will let you know, no weapon formed against this young man will prosper. So I do what I do without fear, favor, malice, or ill will to none, but standing in defense of Tobago.
We have a call on the line. Hello, caller. Caller, good evening. The call is very soft. Caller, good evening. Hello.
Hello.
We're hearing you. You can go ahead. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Yes, we're hearing you, caller.
Hello. Hello. Okay.
Okay, that call, I think there's something not connecting. I'm seeing persons saying they sent voice notes as well. Caller, we're asking for you to speak into the phone and not and listen your phone and not listen the program. Our technical team is saying that's the issue.
Good.
We also have some voice notes I'm seeing. Okay, so we have another caller. Okay. And I want to say, and just to piggyback on what you would have referenced, because again, persons seem to try to utilize every platform to issue threats. We welcome everyone. We have a caller. Caller, good evening. Caller, good evening.
Yeah.
We having a challenge with the calls this evening.
E
The
for
calls are
effort.
coming. Yeah, we get E for effort. The callers, we asking you to speak and listen from your device. Technical team is saying that's the issue. Talk into your device and listen from your device. Caller, good evening. Hello, caller. Okay, we really have to work on getting this straightened out. So I'll ask the director for next program that we could probably sit and come up with an alternative method of having the callers come in clearly. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Callers, you feel free to also put your comments via WhatsApp or even send voice notes in so that at least we get the information. But I want to thank those viewers, and every now and then I take this opportunity to thank persons who watch the program, and more so the persons who are detractors, because some persons come on the program and they try to become disrespectful and that kind of thing. It's in the minority.
Yeah.
But what that says to me is that everyone is watching the program.
And it also tells me that the truth hurts.
They
understand that at the end of the day, the information isn't favorable to the party that they're supporting. But
exactly,
as I say, is without fear or favor. So I'm here to, my concern is really just the people of Tobago. And that is foremost. It's about the people, especially those who, the voice of the voiceless. So what we do here is about educating and informing and bringing truth.
Exactly.
So and that's why we make it our duty. The information is documented.
To get the documentation.
And the information is things that they have said. We remind them of what they promised, and we highlight what they are doing that contradicts their promise.
Exactly.
That is what the program is about, basically.
We have a call on the line. Let's hope we get it right. Caller, good evening.
Yes, gentlemen.
Yes.
Right. Now, it's normal for when a delegation is traveling from the TNT or the government, it's publicized, right? So there's an itinerary stating over the period, the time you're abroad, what will be done each day and who will be going, right? We didn't get that prior to the team going to Germany.
No.
I can't recall, right? But following the end date of the trade show in Germany, which was on the 9th, we never heard anything until the 12th about the chief secretary stopping in Jamaica on the way. I think it's some kind of afterthought.
Correct.
You understand?
Correct.
And today now we hear that the YT, Certica, Terrence and some officials from the division, the staff in Jamaica. Nothing like that was put out.
Nothing.
Right? We just come to and the thing is that we pride the post it up on the office of the chief secretary page, right? Looking for likes and loves and you know.
So it's a facade.
Yeah, you understand? And nobody taking the time to question why are all these people in Jamaica at our expense?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Make sense out of it. So between the ninth, when the trade show was finished in Germany, and the 12th on Sunday, I don't think Fali was in
Yeah,
Jamaica yet.
yeah. And
So where
and
was he?
caller, it also begs the question: at what point did the chief secretary know that he had to go Jamaica?
Jamaica.
Because we were told in the first instance that he was going to the ITB,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no mention of any stop off in Jamaica. And
No,
then ITB finished on the Thursday, and
right?
in the dead of the night on Sunday, we got a
Yeah.
notice that the chief secretary would be stopping off in
Yeah.
Jamaica.
In a,
So
in a
that in itself is another curious kind of occurrence, and it makes you wonder whether this was a trip by VAPS.
Mm-hmm.
but on the way from Jerry, we say, oh boy, I just remember I go Jamaica, boy.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it means what was the business of the chief secretary after ITB finished? Because you
Mhm.
had that lag, which would have been the ITB finished on Thursday. So normally
Yes,
the normal itinerary schedule will dictate that you leave on Friday.
yes,
Yet we were told that he only departed Germany on Sunday.
Mm.
yeah.
So
And
it
that will
means
give
that
him,
for about 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
the chief secretary was in Germany, and the question is, what was the itinerary? What would have required him being there for so long after
After the
the actual trade show?
mm-hmm.
and our expense too, you know, that our expense. But
Yes,
if you check the
exactly.
history of the CHA, which is 43 years old, before we had chief secretary, we had chairman, right? I'm sure there is not one chairman or a chief secretary in the 42 years of the Tobago House of Assembly ever traveled for that long out of Tobago. It's
Never,
almost 2 weeks.
Never.
never.
You understand?
Never.
Almost 2 weeks. And this is the first 15 months, right? I made a point recently that between Orville London, Orville being the chief secretary, he has never made any one of those trips,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially a tourism related trip. Where you had Mr. Wilson as the tourism secretary, who was doing an excellent job. And he didn't need
Well,
thing to be there.
well,
In the
well,
four
that
years,
also begs the question, caller, whether the chief secretary has confidence in his
In the
secretaries.
secretaries. Yeah.
Because if you have confidence in the capacity of your secretaries to carry out their duties, then you would not, it would not require your presence. Because up to this point, I've not seen a decision or an outcome that suggests to me absolutely needed the chief secretary to be there, and that is my concern. There were
Caller, thanks for your call. We have a voice note that we want to also get in. Persons have been sending
Good
voice
night
notes.
to the co-host and to the minority leader. This is Tobago in the house here. Well, I thanks for the information that you are putting out there. Now, mind you, Carnival gone. We band leaders fight them tooth and nail. They try to destroy Carnival. So I'm saying thanks to the 9 band leaders that still came out and tried to give Tobago a little grandmother of all carnivals. We meeting to Easter. We ain't hear nothing but Easter, but they launched jazz. So they had like 2 events. One at Shaw Park Cultural Complex, and then they had something down on the Esplanade. So I would like you, Mr. Minority Leader, to ask them on behalf of we the band leaders, when we get in we Monties, how much money is they spend to launch the jazz, right? And another thing, I see all your touch on with the AG and Mr. Watson Duke, where he's an assemblyman. So you see what direction that going. But oops, remember it's not PDP there, it's the independent crew. So we won't even hear nothing on that. So thank you again, guys. You all oh, Mr. Calvin Morris, one more thing. I thought THA workload is too big, but the higher people, have you gotten any of your
Not
burgesses
one.
to be hired
Not
in
one.
any of the division, especially THA Health? Just
Great.
asking.
Exactly.
Mr. Bego, thank you for that. And that is an important discussion. It is a topic
It's
that
coming. It's
it's
coming.
coming because I really don't want to touch on it,
It's
but
coming.
except to let people know that over 200 persons were hired, as for my information, secretaries each, each representative, they were given opportunities to recommend. And in the electoral district of Darrell Spring, WIM, we did not get that opportunity, but we look forward to seeing, because I understand there are more divisions that are going to be hiring people, and therefore we would look forward with bated breath to see how they would treat the residents of Darrell Spring WIM in that second round of hiring. And Miss Tobago make a good point. It was in fact, I've always advocated that, you know, we need to find opportunities for the young people. We need to have them engaged. But it was this chief secretary who was the one was
Advocating. Yeah.
But now look at him.
Yeah.
So time really tells you the true character of people.
Exactly. Folks, we want to say thank you for being with us tonight. We are well past our time, but again, sometimes we go a bit over, and we always thank the team at Tobago Updates for their leniency. Before we close the program this evening, I want to just make one comment with respect to persons looking at the show. I'd like to encourage persons to be respectful. We have never closed the platform off to anyone viewing, and we do in fact know that everyone, even the entire administration, views the program. Actually, last week, even though we had an entire contingent in Germany, we saw persons logged in who were on the contingent in Germany looking at the program. However, we want to ask persons to be as respectful as possible. Even in your comments, there's nothing wrong to have or to hold a difference of opinion in terms of your political ideology. But with respect to making personal attacks on persons and going almost to the point of open obscene and that kind of thing, we're asking persons to manage that. Do not put us in a position where we have to take persons off the live because of the type of comments that you are making. All are welcomed, but we are asking you to keep your comments respectful.
And the point is, I don't expect everybody would agree with what we have to say, and that is all right. We live in a democratic, but we must learn to also engage in a respectful, and it says a lot about you, the individual, as well.
Yeah.
So let us respect one another. Let us agree to disagree at times, and that is all fair. But at the end of the day, I, as minority leader, and this show is about highlighting, educating, and informing the people of Tobago as to some of the challenges that we are facing here, as to some of the issues. And we will continue without fear or favor to hold this administration accountable, because a strong minority is as important for governance as the government itself.
Exactly.
And therefore, we would be very alert. We continue to be very alert. And as the information comes to us, we will share it with you, the people of Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, and the world.
Thank you very much. So, folks, we want to say thanks for viewing. We want to say, for those who would have called or attempted to call, do not give up. We will go at it again. Next week, I think we'll try to open the lines earlier in the program, probably have 2 call-in segments where we facilitate persons and their views. We want to thank you for staying with us. We want to thank you for your contributions, your numerous messages. This says quite a lot that persons are in fact paying attention. Persons are continuing to look on and we thank you for the overall support. Minority Leader, you have any closing remark you want to?
Well, I just want, as we close, to thank everyone for their engagement, for logging on. And of course, tonight we really delved into, the issue of transparency. I want to encourage Tobagonians. So sometimes you're so focused on the messenger that you miss the message. Let us take every message and every issue on its merit. There will be some issues you may not agree with, but there may be others that you may find some value. So let us listen to the messages and not be so focused on the messenger or the party or the politics. Let us be focused on how this affects people. And this is what we are here to do, to treat with issues that are most important to you, the people. And so I look forward to the next episode of this Minority Report. Of course, as I said, I received a package, a couple packages as a matter of fact. And, some of it you have to really take your time with the information. And there's going to be some action coming out of that you would hear in the coming weeks. So I want to thank you again, and I want to wish each and every one of you a blessed night, and may God bless us all.
Thank you, folks. This is Marlon David, and I'm saying good night from the Minority Report. Stay tuned, and we look forward to being here with you again next week. Have a wonderful night, and God bless.